Story: 3 Iron Beds. Chapter 1. Room Number 4. The day I arrived at room number 4, in a small alley near the back gate of the Pedagogical University, it had just finished raining. The smell of damp soil mixed with the smell of gasoline and the sound of water flowing from old gutters created a very unique sound of the city after the rain. I had just left my hometown carrying a thin cloth suitcase, a few books, and a scholarship enough to cover the first year. That room, less than 20 square meters wide, had a patchy cement floor, 3 iron beds placed close together, peeling paint on the walls, and a fan that rattled like someone out of breath. But strangely, I didn't feel sad, because the other 2 people, my roommates, stood up and smiled, waving to me as if they had known each other for a long time. "You're Hung, right? I'm Kang. The other guy is Lam, but you can call him Lam Swa, because he's, weak-hearted, afraid of ghosts, loves to drink hot milk every night." I burst out laughing, not because of the joke, but because of the way they welcomed me. Simple, noisy, sincere. In a strange city, among the chaos of vehicles and the yellow lights of nameless streets, I had just received my first gift: friendship. We lived together for 3 years. In the morning we went to school. In the afternoon we came home to eat instant noodles with boiled vegetable water. At the end of the month we pooled our money and counted each thousand to buy rice. There were nights when the power went out. The 3 of us lay in the hallway, counting stars, telling old stories, then fell asleep without knowing it. Kang studied architecture. He loved drawing. One day at 3 a.m., I still saw him with the light on, sketching. His eyes were dark, but his mouth was muttering, "I'm almost done building my dream house. All I need is someone to live there." Lam studied medicine. Gentle, clean. Every day he wiped the table, wiped the windows, and boiled ginger water for the whole room. But one day he burst into tears after witnessing the first death during his internship. I sat next to him, said nothing, just gave him a box of milk. And that whole night we sat silently like that, listening to the wind blowing through the narrow door. As for me, a student of literature, I spent all day hugging my laptop to type, write stories, worked part-time at a coffee shop, and had a habit of sneaking out to the bus stop to sit alone when I missed home. Room number 4 had many rainy seasons. Every time it rained heavily, water flooded into half the foot of the bed. There were nights when all 3 of us had to put books and shoes on the table, and while splashing water, we sang random songs to ease our fear. Yet we didn't complain. We just lived quietly, grew up quietly, and sometimes laughed out loud in the middle of the night as if tomorrow was the last summer vacation of our lives. Chapter 2. The night all 3 were silent. That November, the weather turned colder than usual. The wind blew through the window of our shabby rented room, blowing into the quiet nights, causing the torn curtains to flutter and fall like a sigh. No one said anything, but all 3 of us were tired. Tired in a very adult way. Not tired from studying too much, but tired because each of us had just fallen into our own personal sorrow, a deep hole that no one wanted to talk about. Lam was heartbroken. He met a girl from the same medical school. The 2 of them had known each other for over a year. Everyone thought they would get married after graduation because she was gentle and Lam was obedient and thoughtful. Until the day I came back to my room earlier than usual and found him sitting on the floor, eyes red, his phone dropped beside him. No crying, no whining, just silence. "What's wrong with you?" He shook his head. Then he whispered, She said goodbye, said I was too gentle, not strong enough to rely on." Khan was sitting at the cable, his back turned. He didn't say anything, but I knew he heard everything. The room was dead silent. We didn't ask more questions, didn't comfort him. We just let Lam lie there, eyes looking at the ceiling, hands tightly gripping the cold milk carton. As for Khan, he skipped the exam.
We only found out when his exam scores were posted on the board. His architectural structure score column was marked 0 because he was absent. That subject was compulsory. One failure could set him back an entire semester. I was startled. I asked him, "Did you really skip the exam?" He smiled faintly, the smile of someone who has nothing left to lose. "Can't draw. My head is blank. I don't understand anymore." Khan was the strongest kid in the room, always talking loudly, always joking wildly. But that day, he looked down at his hands, the fingers that had held a pencil for hours, as if they no longer believed they had ever created anything beautiful. What about me? I failed philosophy. On the day of the exam, my mind was blank. Maybe because I had stayed up 2 nights delivering goods to earn money. Maybe because I was too tired. Maybe because I was gradually drifting away from myself. That night, all 3 of us went back to our rooms at the same time. No one asked anyone. Each of us went to our own bed. The 3 iron beds were next to each other, only a few inches apart, yet so far apart that it seemed as if each of us were floating in a different ocean. Lam turned on the fan. The sound of the fan clattered like a sigh. Khan lay on his side, face against the wall. I lay on my back, eyes wide open, looking up at the ceiling, where a piece of plaster was about to fall. No one said anything. No one asked, "Are you okay?" Because all 3 of us knew it wasn't good, and no one had the strength to pull each other up at this time. I don't remember how long we were silent. An hour, 2 hours, or all night. I only remember near dawn, it started to rain, and Lam turned around and said softly, "Tomorrow night, I'll buy instant noodles. The 3 of us can eat spicy noodles?" Khan didn't answer. Neither did I. But at that moment, I burst out laughing, not because of what he said, but because of the way we still chose to stand silently next to each other instead of trying to say something to comfort each other, without being sincere. And after that night, we gradually got better. Lam stopped writing her name in his notebook. Khan started drawing again. The drawings were stronger, and I started writing stories again. A short story called "The Night When the 3 of Us Were Silent." And perhaps that's how we grew up. Not thanks to words of encouragement, but thanks to the times we fell together without abandoning each other.
Chapter 3. A Tet in Kong's Hometown. That year, we didn't go home for Tet because Kong couldn't go home. As for Lam, there was no one to go home to. His parents divorced when he was in middle school, each going their separate ways, never once calling each other during Lam's 3 years in college. As for me, it was fine to go home, but when I went home, seeing my grandmother looking at me with worried eyes because the tuition for the next semester hadn't been paid, I wasn't happy either. I was used to spending Tet alone, or busy working, receiving deliveries across New Year's Eve to earn a few extra bucks. As for Kong, the one who was always loud, always acting like there was nothing to worry about, that day sat absent-mindedly, eyes looking out the window, hands turning a rusty lighter. He said, "My father passed away a few years ago. My mother had a stroke. Now, at home, there are only me and my younger brother. When we come back, we just eat, watch TV, listen to the neighbors laughing and joking, and then we feel empty." Then he looked at us, his voice much softer. "Come to my hometown to play. I don't have much, but when you come, it will make this Tet less cold." And so we went, 3 boys, 3 old backpacks, a bus trip across the province, with the wind blowing against the glass doors and the rumbling sound every time the bus went over a pothole. Kong's hometown is a coastal area. The road to his house goes through windy coconut trees, dazzling white salt fields, and dogs lying in the sun on the red dirt steps. The house is small, with a corrugated iron roof, moss-stained walls, but clean. Kong's mother sits in a wheelchair on the porch. Her hair is gray, but her smile is still very gentle. She reaches out to stroke my hair, strokes Lom's cheeks, and then softly says, "You guys stay here for a few days with Kong. There's nothing at home, but there's rice, soup, and food." I turned away, quickly hiding my tears. The days of Tet passed like smoke. In the morning, we went to the market to help Kong's mother buy things. In the noon, we gathered to cook a pot of braised pork and eggs. In the evening, we lit fireworks with some leftover matchsticks from last year. On New Year's Eve, Kong pulled Lom and me to the beach behind the house, holding a bottle of rice wine that had been hidden under the bed for a while. The sea breeze was strong and salty. The moon hung low, so low that we could almost touch it. We sat on the sand, the spicy wine rushing up our noses. Kong smiled. "Thank you guys for not letting me celebrate Tet alone." Lom took a sip, nodded. "I thought I only needed medicine and books, but I also needed the smell of pickled rice, the sound of the sea breeze, and you guys." As for me, I didn't say anything. I just closed my eyes, listening to the sound of the waves. And suddenly I felt peaceful, a peace that had not been there for a long time. On the morning of the third day, we packed our backpacks and got on the bus to return to the city. Kong's mother shoved a bag of bontet and a jar of shrimp paste into my hands. Lom burst out laughing, and I felt a lump in my throat. The bus rolled away. Through the rearview mirror, I saw her still sitting there, a tiny wheelchair in the middle of a patchy brickyard, waving her hand for a long time. That night, when we got back to our rented room, Lom tidied up the desk. Kong typed a new drawing. I opened my laptop and started writing a short story called Tet of the Three Boys. And I knew that there would be other Tet seasons in my life, more fulfilling, more cozy, but none of them were as real as that Tet. The Tet of poverty, of the sea breeze, of shrimp paste, of iron beds, and three boys with no place to return to, but fortunately, they had each other.
Chapter 4. Nights When No One Was Waiting at Home. I started working part-time in my second year of university, not because I liked the experience, but because the tuition fee that semester was higher than expected. My grandmother in the countryside was sick, and I didn't want to write another application for an extension of payment. The pride of a provincial student sometimes weighed as much as a dozen kilos of rice. My first job was washing dishes for a cheap restaurant on So Viet Nha Dang Street, starting from 5 p.m. to almost 11 p.m. My hands were soaked in cold water until they were wrinkled, grease stuck to my nails. The dishwashing liquid was as diluted as rainwater. But I still did it, still bowed my head to wash every spoon. There was a night when I came home late. Khan was already asleep. Lum was still studying with the light on. When he saw me staggering in, he immediately handed me a box of hot milk. Without asking much, he just put it on the table, then said softly, "I have rice in the pot. Heat it up and eat it. Don't hold back anymore." My second job was a waitress at a book cafe. That cafe smelled of old wood and Trin music played steadily. I liked it because it was quiet, but the salary was low. In return, I occasionally got to read a few books that no one borrowed. I once read the entire Les Miserables while standing guard over the coffee machine. One day, while carrying a tray of water, I staggered from hunger. The owner saw me, slipped me a box of egg sandwiches, and said, "I used to be as poor as you. Try your best, my child." I bowed my head, ate, and wanted to cry. Once, I went to distribute flyers at the supermarket. It suddenly rained, the paper was wet, and I was soaked. Khan passed by and saw me, didn't say anything, just pulled me onto his motorbike and sped home. When we got home, he threw me an old t-shirt. You may be poor, but don't let people see you as pitiable. I understand. That sentence not only speaks for me, but also for us. 3 boys living in the middle of luxurious Saigon, with exactly 3 fans, 2 pairs of worn-out sandals, and a rice cooker that always has a burnt bottom. The hardest part was the few months I was delivering goods for the app. An old bicycle, carrying a 20-liter water tank up several slopes. Every time I climbed a slope, I wanted to quit, but I didn't, because each order was a few thousand dong, and those few thousand dong were medicine for my grandmother in the countryside. There were nights when I came home late, it was pouring rain, my clothes were soaked, and I was freezing. I tiptoed to open the door of my rented room, afraid of waking Khan and Lam. But when I entered, I saw 2 raincoats already hanging, and on the table was a bowl of egg noodles that was still warm. No note, no greetings. But I knew my 2 friends were always waiting for me to come home.
I lived through days like that. Not well off, not romantic, but in every calloused hand, every cold meal, every nap with my arm resting on my backpack, I began to understand. Maturity does not come from how much you do, but from how you keep your heart kind, in the midst of days of having to run for food. And also in those days, I understood that friendship does not need oaths, does not need group photos, does not need to take stories together, just need to be together at the right time, like 3 iron beds next to each other, not luxurious, but warm.
Chapter 5. Sleeping on the Sidewalk. My 6th part-time job is a warehouse assistant for a grocery store at the wholesale market. Every morning, I wake up at 3 a.m., cycle nearly 5 kilometers to the warehouse, help carry bags of rice, water barrels, push carts, and stack goods on shelves. I work until 7 a.m., then rush back to my rented room, quickly change clothes, drink a sip of water, and run to class. On days when I didn't have an early class, I stopped by the small coffee shop, where I worked part-time in the evening, to clean the tables and wipe the glasses. Like that, I ran around almost all day. I didn't feel tired, or maybe tiredness had become a familiar part of my breathing.
One night, I didn't go back to my rented room. I fell asleep on a park bench near the market. I was wet from the dew, hungry from skipping meals, and still clutching the plastic bag containing 2 loaves of bread I bought for Hang and Lam. When I woke up at 2 a.m., I found it so quiet. No cars, no people, just the sound of brooms sweeping the street in the distance. I missed my rented room. I missed my 2 friends. I missed the fan making a clocking sound and Lam's always soft voice. "Go home, Grandpa. It's late." I cycled home. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Hang was still awake, sitting at the drawing table. He looked up, didn't say anything, just handed me a cup of warm ginger water. I smiled. The smile of a student who has just survived a tiring night. But luckily, there is still someone waiting. To me, working part-time is not just about making money. It is also a part of youth, a part of the lessons that no one teaches in the classroom. I once witnessed a cleaning lady collapse from exhaustion, then get up again because she could not leave her child at home hungry. I once saw a security guard nod off in the middle of the night shift before quickly standing up to bow to the customer, his hands shaking from the cold. I once sat down to eat a lunchbox with a delivery man who was nearly 20 years older than me. He said, "Are you writing a story?" "Right. Write about us. I wrote it all down. I didn't miss anything. Because I knew that those anonymous people taught me how to live truly. One night, I sat in the middle of the warehouse, my back leaning against the instant noodle box, my eyes half closed from fatigue, my mind drifting between the hum of the air conditioner and Hang's voice calling somewhere in my dream. "There's an inspection tomorrow, sir. Go home and sleep quickly." I smiled, among the heavy pile of goods, among the dust and sweat, because I knew our youth is hard but not lonely. There is friendship, there is trust, and there is faith that we will get better, little by little. None of the three of us are the best in class. None of us were born into luxury, but every night of poor accommodation, every meal with fish sauce, every fever that only each other can take care of has shaped us into people. I used to think working extra is losing my youth, but now I know it is the days of working extra that are my most genuine youth.
Chapter 6. The Night the Room Burned. That day was a March evening. The Saigon sun had just begun to cool down, but it was scorching hot. The damp room the three of us had was already hot since noon, and now it was even more stuffy like a coal furnace. Lamb was on duty at the hospital. I was sitting there writing a story, while Khan was busy working on a project, his eyes glued to the drawing hanging on the wall. One hand holding a coffee and the other a cigarette. "Hey, we have to fix the electrical outlet by the window. I plugged in my laptop earlier and it sparked." "Oh, you remind me when you get home from school tomorrow," I replied, not looking up from the screen. But we forgot. Around midnight, when I had just dozed off for about 20 minutes, someone shouted from the alley, "Fire! Room number 4 is on fire, guys!" I woke up. I couldn't open my eyes to see anything. I only saw black smoke billowing through the window. The smell of burning plastic was so strong it tore at my lungs. Fire erupted from the electrical outlet, the one Khan had said had a spark, the one we had promised to fix tomorrow. Khan shouted, "Hung, wake up, come out." He pulled me and dragged me out the door, while I kept stuttering, "My laptop, my story hasn't been saved yet. Fuck, do you want to die with that pile of words? Come out." We ran into the hallway, jostling each other down the stairs. The whole dormitory was in chaos. The sound of water, screams, the sound of things being thrown out the door. The night wind blew into the fire, getting louder and louder. I stood outside, breathing heavily, my eyes stinging from the smoke and my heart pounding in my chest. And then I saw it. Room number 4, which had been our home for the past 3 years, burning bright red in the night. The next morning, the three of us huddled in a nearby park. Each of us had only one set of clothes left on our backs. Backpacks burned, papers burned, Khan's blueprints turned to ashes, Lamb's milk box exploded, my story manuscript went up in flames. No one said anything. Then Khan chuckled. "You know what? We lost everything, but at least there are still 3 corpses sitting here." I nodded, laughed along, but tears fell again. Not because I regretted the property, but because those poor years once kept in the 4 walls of room number 4, now there is nothing to return to. Lamb sat looking into the distance, his voice as small as the wind. "Do we need to rent a new place?" Khan said, "Yes, we still go to school, we still have exams, we still graduate, and we still have a home." I looked at my 2 friends. Khan's hair was still burned. Lamb's eyes were red. I suddenly realized the room could burn, but the so-called place to return to still remained. Because home is not a place with a soft bed and warm blankets, but there is someone ready to pull you out of the fire. That night, I borrowed an old phone, opened the editor, and retyped the story from the beginning, from the lost. Lamb bought a new milk carton. Khan drew a new drawing with paper borrowed from the teacher. We started over, from the ashes, but our hearts did not die. Under the corrugated iron roof of the new rented room, 3 iron beds were placed close together. Still old, still rickety, but this time we bought an additional fire extinguisher to hang on the wall and stuck a note right next to the power outlet. "Things that need to be fixed, do it today."
because youth, if not burned in passion, will burn out of carelessness.
Chapter 7. The Last Day of a Time. That morning, the sun in Saigon was blazing hot. The sun was scorching hot, drying like July. The banyan trees in the schoolyard were no longer strong enough to cast shadows on the rows of mottled stone benches where we had been sitting for the past 4 years. That day was the graduation ceremony. We wore bachelor's gowns, the kind borrowed from the training department, still smelling of starch but worn and damp from having been through many generations of other students. Putting on our square caps, we smiled, took pictures, patted each other on the shoulder, and made promises, even though we knew no one could be sure of the future after today. Kang stood in front of the notice board holding a roll of graduation certificates, his eyes looking far away. The owner of the internet cafe at the end of the alley called me to be the manager. I was drawing on the side and working part-time. It wasn't a big dream, but at least I had something to eat. Lam received a notice of being accepted to be a resident doctor. His face was calm, but his hands were shaking with emotion. I don't think I have enough points. Now I'll probably have to cut my hair and go on duty all the time. In a few years, if I still have the strength, I'll continue studying cardiology. I was silent. I had nothing clear. No job, no specific plans. Just a 200-page manuscript that was being sent to the publisher. People said you write with depth, but the market doesn't necessarily need it. I understood. I didn't blame him. Kaim patted me on the shoulder, smiling. You don't have any plans? I looked at him, then at the Faculty of Letters, building in the distance, and softly replied, I'll go teach extra classes, continue writing, and wait. That afternoon, we returned to our rented room, the new room number. The old one was already burned in my memory. The 3 of us sat around the creaking table fan, eating rice with canned fish, like any other evening. No flowers, no cake, no one live-streamed, no one posted stories. Only hot rice, salted fish, and 3 poor students, now graduated. Kang was the first to pack. He arranged books, drawings, clothes into a big suitcase, then stopped for a long time in front of the old iron bed. Keep this bed, sir. Who knows, you might stay alone and sad. I laughed. You've been lying on this bed for 3 years. Keep it. Who knows, someone new will rent it, and you'll sleep there again. At that moment, dream after dream followed dream. Lum gathered all the medical books, notebooks, and the torn cover of Physiology and put it back on my desk. Please keep it for me. When you miss me, take it out and read it to ease your longing.